listening to the Guide Shack podcast. Whether you are a guide with a faded patch or someone who just bought their first pair of boots, this is your home base. This is where we swap stories that didn't make the highlight reel, talk gear that actually serves the brush, and protect the traditions of the North Woods.
Welcome to the Guide Shack podcast, episode 1. I'm Jason Thibodeau.
I'm Tony Thibodeau.
What we wanted to do with this podcast is we want to have a place where we can kind of talk about our experiences in the woods through guiding, through just hunting, fishing, hiking, trapping, all of that. Share some stories, kind of build a community, I guess, is really what we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cover some current topics as well.
Yeah, definitely. Just discuss things, I guess.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, discuss things, and hopefully people learn from our experiences as well, especially, you know, given the fact that we've made a lot of mistakes in our time. And
oh, absolutely. Failure's the best teacher.
Oh, it sure is. And, you know, that's one of the things that I think has been really effective for my education with when, you know, in the hunting, fishing, trapping, is the amount of stuff that I have failed at while doing it.
Oh, yeah. The amount of deer that I've missed, or, you know, lines that I've broken, lost. Fish bigger than what I can measure, you know, and they get bigger every time I tell the story. I got a 30-point buck.
Yeah.
Just missed him.
Yeah, 238 yards, took him right in the neck.
Flat shot.
Yeah, flat shot.
Flat shot.
Yeah, so this is definitely going to be the podcast for that, and I hope you all enjoy it. So we'll get right into it, and I'm going to ask the question right off, you know, why the patch? And could you tell me why you decided to get your guide patch?
Yeah. So years and years ago, obviously, you know, we grew up liking hunting and fishing and all that, and just overwhelmingly enjoying the outdoors. We'd go out and walk up the backside of the mountain for hours, you know.
Yeah.
Get lost for a little bit and find our way back. It was pretty fun. And slowly through hunting with some of these older guys, you know, I was seeing the amount of skill that they had, not just in hunting and fishing, but I remember hunting with one guy in particular, Earl, and we were walking through the woods, and he was picking up weeds and eating them, and that was the first time that I had the spruce gum. He pulled a bunch of it off a tree, and it wasn't actually gum, it's just the sap, but you know, it's spruce gum, keep the bugs away. He gave me some of that, and it was just really cool as a you know, kid. Right. I think I was maybe 11 years old when I was hunting with him. It was really cool to see all that you can do with just everything that's around you, you know. But as I grew, I modeled myself after that mentality. You learn everything that you can about everything that you can outdoors, you know. And that's not to say that I'm egotistical, or I say that I have a lot of knowledge or anything, but it's just you take what you can get, and you take your failures and learn from them. You know, and as we said, I have a lot of failures.
Yeah.
But as time went on, started a family, had my boys, and I introduced them to everything that I really loved, the outdoors. Started with fly fishing, and seeing them learn that, it got me kind of hooked on that feeling. You know what I mean? That it's a weird mixture of pride and I don't really know how to describe that feeling, but to show someone something and watch that light bulb click, I couldn't be happier. Addicted to the feeling. And then, as my boys grew, I got to experience that more and more, but also showing people that may not know that stuff and having them realize it and them learn and seeing that click. I noticed it's pretty close to the same feeling. It's not exact,
Right.
but it's pretty close. And again, I'm addicted to that. So,
It's a good feeling.
And the other thing is, I could hunt for every day for the rest of my life, hunt and fish. And to have someone pay me to hunt and fish, that is the dream.
Oh, absolutely. That it is.
Yeah. Well, why'd you get into it?
Very similar, backstory, obviously, because we're brothers.
Yes.
That
forgot to say that we are brothers. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, that helped on the backstory for sure. The big difference for me though, and leading up the boys and all that, that's very similar. the overall community with hunting and fishing, that kept me gravitated towards it. And especially up here, you get a lot of old timers that are, they're very generous and they like to pass down their information.
Absolutely.
And you take some of the big names that are out there, and a lot of them are getting into the educational aspect of it, and they're sharing their knowledge. So seeing that, it kind of, especially with like the coming of YouTube and all that, you could actually go out, watch it, the Instagram reels and all that. You're watching a lot of people share their knowledge. So that was kind of the true turning point. But mine goes all the way back to about, that's right around 2013-ish, is when I really wanted to get into guiding. And it started out with, when I got back from the Army, I had a lot of good conversations with people while I was out there that didn't have the luxuries that we had, growing up. Like, they lived in cities and they lived in, areas that just weren't abundant with deer, weren't abundant with fish and all that. And so I'd get some text messages and be like, well, what do you think about this? Or how, what about that? And hey, would you do this or would you do that? And, as the conversations progressed and I was giving more information, I was like, man, this is kind of fun. It's fun sharing this information.
Yeah.
And, as I got older and there started to become, nephews in the family.
Yeah.
And I saw you interacting with them and then having a kid of my own and wanting to, give as much information as possible out to the youth. It really it was the nail in the coffin for me. And I really wanted to focus my knowledge that I had at that point in time, and it's only gotten better. It's nowhere near where it should be, but
we're transitioning to become the old timers, but we haven't finished that transition yet.
My hair finished that transition, but I haven't. But I really enjoy sharing what knowledge I do have with others and the youth. And the overall reason I got into wanting to be a guide was actually to share that information with the youth.
Yep.
And I don't think that there are enough youth out there that hunt or fish or trap.
No, it's enjoying the outdoors is becoming a dying passion, I guess. No matter what it is, hunting, especially hunting.
Yes.
I think fishing took a resurgence right around COVID. A lot of people I noticed getting into not just fishing, but fly fishing specifically, but hunting is still, the numbers are down quite a bit.
Right.
So any bit of information that we can pass on to anyone that's willing to learn, it's a good thing.
It is. And, a great thing that happened is, I had a bunch of friends and they started having kids at the same time. And a lot of them didn't necessarily have that upbringing that we did.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't, when you say Maine, you think, hey, you live in Maine, you live in the woods.
The funny thing is, most people see they think Maine and they think you live on the coast. You know
Right,
what I
yeah,
mean? And I've always thought that Maine is really a few different states kind of mashed together.
it is.
You have your woods, you have your mountains, you have your potato country, and you have your lobster area.
Right. But when you really break it down, not everybody really lives in the woods where they can go out and hunt. The
No.
vast majority of the population actually does not.
Yep. Yep.
And as I moved away from where we grew up, and I met more people and got more friends that they were starting to have kids. They never had these experiences that we had, and one of the best times that I ever had after I got my guide license is I linked up with a friend, and he had a couple kids, and they wanted to go fishing, but he was never shown how to fish because his parents just they weren't into fishing,
Yeah.
and so he didn't know, and his kids wanted to fish, but he had no idea where to even begin. So I said, well, I've got everything that you need, let's
Yeah.
go. So we went out, and seeing his kids catch a fish for the first time,
Yep.
and the even better joy than seeing his kids catch the fish for their first fish was him seeing his kids catch the fish.
Right.
If that,
Right.
if I worded that correctly.
Oh, absolutely. So that's it touches on one of the really neat aspects of being a guide is you're part of a story, but not really. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You make something happen so that other people can have their moment.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's a backstage type role to
Yes.
a very important moment in a lot of people's lives.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's funny you say that because another trip I did, I was guiding an ice fishing trip, and the the son was older than me,
Yeah.
which so it's when you say
Oh
son,
yeah.
when you say son, you're expecting like a 15-year-old or younger.
Yeah.
This guy was 45. So so his dad though was in his 70s, and he lived across country. His dad lived right close to me, so they wanted to meet up. He was coming up for vacation, and they wanted to go ice fishing, and so take the guy out. He wanted specifically to go after pike, so he gets this nice pike. It was right around 30-35 inches. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
So he pulls this thing out of the ice, and he is ecstatic. He's pumped, and he has this thing stretched out, and he's loving every second of it.
Yeah.
He puts it back down through the hole, and his dad's just standing back. He didn't want to even fish after that, and he we're walking around, we're checking the holes, and I'm walking with the dad, and he looks at me and he goes, I don't care if I catch a fish today. He goes, that was that is why I wanted to come today. He goes, I wanted to see him catch a fish. He goes, if nothing else, you made my day because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is an amazing feeling.
So, not to cut you off, but I'll tell you a little story about me and my oldest son there. It was last summer. We were out fishing the river, right local river, and they have salmon in that river. And we were out, and the sun is setting just right, and I'm looking off the water, and I go, oh, I know what that fly is. And he's fly fishing. Of course, I did my kids wrong, and I started them off fly right away. So spin cast is awkward to them, which, whoops.
Yeah.
But still, he's got the fly rod. And I say, hey, why don't you cast over there? And all the while, I'm just kind of, roll casting out, not paying attention to what I'm doing. I'm watching him. And I see, oh, little rise. I say, hey, land that fly right there and float it down there. And he did. And he caught, guess it was about 8-inch salmon he pulled out of there. And then we managed to take it off the hook, and he let that go. And he did that same thing. Boom, there's another one. And he looked up at me, and I didn't even know where my fly was. You know, it had gone down the river.
Right.
It was all snagged up in a fallen pine tree or something. And he's like, it's kind of funny that I'm catching all these fish and you're not. I guess I'm better than you at this. I laughed. I said, yep, you definitely are, bud. You definitely are.
You know, sometimes it's just that little piece that just makes him more interested in it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Catching fish always helps.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, you always want to start them out with something that is very active. And,
Yeah.
you know, hey, there's a pool of 38 sunfish and catch every single one of them.
Yeah, I had high hopes with both of my older boys. I was like, here's a fly rod, and we're going after, you know, native trout. And it's a slow process, but, you know, they got to the point where they're pretty decent at it.
Yeah.
Both of them catch fish.
Takes a lot of patience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you had said, you had spoken a lot about where we grew up, you know, and we grew up, it's not necessarily what they would call North Woods or Big Woods or anything like that. It's, in effect, Central Maine, but it's out North Anson Way, out on the Valley Road.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of big deer out there, and it was a lot of land that was open to hunting. And one of the best things about that area was the respect that all of the hunters and all of the outdoorsmen had for each other, you know.
Right.
And I think that made it a very good place to grow up and a very good place to learn the kind of rules of the woods, the unspoken rules.
Yes. Yeah. Certain etiquettes.
Exactly. Yeah. As I remember being a kid, and I say kid, we'll say, you know, teenager, you walk through the woods and hunting, and you'd bump into another hunter, and you'd get one of two type guys. One guy who would talk your ear off about everything that he's seen, and, you know, in a good way, give you advice. And that was usually the old timers. And then you'd have the other type guy who he was out to get some deer, and he'd just say, hey, I'm going to go back this way. And then you look at him and you go, I'm going to go over this way. And that was it. You stayed out of each other's business.
Absolutely. And that is one thing that I loved about that area, is just this mutual respect. And, you know, I don't want to say it's a dying thing, because I think, you know, a vast majority of the hunters still have that. But with the uptick in hunters since COVID, or at least I saw a kind of a little bit of a decline in that etiquette, because, you know, you're getting a lot of people that have never hunted. You know, it's not a family tradition. Their parents didn't hunt, grandparents didn't hunt. They just up and one day decided, I'm going to take hunter safety and I'm going to go out and start hunting. And, you know, or they moved from a completely different state, came in, and I'm not trying to...
No, I think that that's a big one, is they don't understand the way that Maine is and the heritage that we have for kind of sharing the land.
Yes.
You know, it's all private land. But right around that COVID era, we did see an influx of posted signs, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
All the posted signs moved in.
Correct.
You know, and with the posted signs came posted ideals. And it changed the way that the whole state kind of shares the woods.
Yes. Which, you know, in my opinion, kind of, it's a shame, because there was that I want to call it, you know, the good old boys etiquette, where, you know, you'd go up, you weren't afraid, and it was a norm that you could go up to somebody's door, knock on it, and say, hey, you got a nice field. Do you mind if I hunt it? And they would be honest with you. They say, well, I got 8 people hunting it already. Or they'd say, as long as you don't get in my way, you can hunt it.
That was the vast majority of people, actually. If they owned a large amount of land, they would say, hey, I'm going to be out in this corner watching this field. You can go anywhere else, just don't be there.
Right.
You know, and it worked. And then you get the deer and you bring them some. You
Yes.
bring them
Yeah.
some meat.
And that was a norm. Hey, especially if you were hunting somebody else's, their private land.
Yeah.
You weren't on public preserve land or
Public land isn't much around here,
no.
realistically.
No.
A lot of it's private, and it's hard to, bring a package of deer steak to the timber company, but but
yeah. But that's just one of the things that I really enjoyed growing up was that I don't want to. I was going to call it camaraderie, but that just commonality between everybody is.
Yeah, it really was almost like a brotherhood.
Yes. Yeah.
I've hunted with a lot of people, and the first thing that everyone always does, never fails. What you got there in that rifle case? What do you hunt with?
Yes.
And that's like the first step in bonding with them is, oh yeah, well, my dad used to hunt with one of those, or I started out with that, or and,
yeah, which around here you either start out with a 30-30, 30-06.
Oh, 20 gauge single shot. My
yeah.
God.
There goes your shoulder.
Yeah. That is the worst kicking rifle, shotgun. The worst kicking hunting gun that I've ever fired was just that, break action single shot youth model 20 gauge.
No name. Scratched off.
Geez, I don't know what type it was. I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I almost want to say it was a Stevens, but I don't believe it was.
Yeah. I started out with a 22 mag.
Yeah, you were spoiled like that.
Yeah.
After they saw me pick my shoulder up off the damn floor.
Yeah.
Well, what it was that there was one day I'd been hunting with that 20 gauge for a few years, and I had complained to Ellis about the kick, and that gun ain't got no kick, and he picked it up, and I used the slugs, and he touched off that shotgun.
Yeah.
He touched off that gun, and he took a whale, and he staggered backwards, and he was like, "Jeez, that thing kicks like a mule."
You don't say.
No, weird. That's odd.
10 years old, getting teleported.
Yeah, that's also a big thing, is not being scared of the firearm that you have starting out. You know what I mean?
I did notice a huge lost track of what I was saying. I noticed a big difference in starting rifles when age was that allowed to start earlier too.
Yeah.
Which for all good reason. You're not going to hand and I truly do believe that there are some 6-year-olds that are completely capable of going out hunting.
Yep.
When we were growing up, the starting age was 10 years old.
Yeah.
That was pretty consistent. You had an average build, like they could handle certain firearms.
Yep.
No, a 6-year-old is not going to handle a 20 gauge.
No.
You got the 243s, the 22 mags.
Yep.
Those are pristine for your younger hunters.
And that's what I have my oldest use, is that 243.
Slick. They're a good rifle. Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, like I think with all of the new stuff or changes and everything, the etiquette could certainly use some work.
Yeah.
But
less the mentality now is not camaraderie, to jump back to what you were saying before. It's not a brotherhood.
It's competition.
It's competition. Exactly what I was going to say. And it's the whole idea that I've got to get, my 250-pound buck, or my, 27 point, or whatever Boone and Crockett score you want.
Right.
It's good to be goal oriented and work toward that goal, but you also don't want to undercut other people,
Right.
especially working toward that goal. It's us against the deer. Not
Hmm.
really against the deer,
Right.
but everyone's just out there trying to feed their family.
Yes. And I think, this will definitely be a topic for a different episode because we could expand on it for hours
Oh
and
yeah,
hours.
yeah.
But you get the instant gratification aspect of the internet. All you see is these people, and nobody wants to send a video out of them hunting a spike.
No, no, no.
And which is unfortunate because some people, that's what they need.
Yeah,
and
they
and
just need a deer,
right,
or just a buck.
yeah,
You know.
they need food.
Yep.
And then they're getting belittled on the internet because they chose to take a spike horn.
I think that probably those forums, they're the worst thing that you could possibly do as a hunter, or as
As a new hunter,
a new hunter,
especially.
definitely, but even as a hunter that maybe doesn't get out very often,
Hmm.
which is the majority of the working class.
Right, you work 5 days a week. That only gives you sometimes four
Right.
days to hunt.
Yeah, 4 days to hunt. And a lot of that's if you're lucky, you don't have anything else going on in your life.
Hmm.
And that's a tough time of year.
It sure is.
So you get to, you hunt yourself ragged those 4 days. And then you get to look at the people with the, food plots and the giant deer, and you compare yourself to it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if this is the exact quote or just the gist of it, or even where it came from, but comparison is the thief of joy, I believe, is what it
Hmm.
was. And it really is, especially in that aspect. You should be concentrating more about the experience and the harvest than,
Yes.
oh geez, this one isn't quite as big as Jim's.
Right. Yeah. So now that we've talked about a few stories and why we got into it, um, we are heading into spring, and spring it's definitely a kind of like a secret hidden time of year. You get um, that mud season, but there's actually a lot that you can do in the spring to prepare yourself.
Yep.
um, and a lot of people, they just they focus on the fact that, hey, there's ice is coming out, I have to stop ice fishing. It's a bad time of year to start open water fishing. There's really no hunting to be done. What are your thoughts on that?
So the first thing is ice out fishing is probably some of the best fishing that there is,
Hmm.
because the temperature is pretty well even, pretty cool throughout the entire water column. Or if you talk to some of the old timers, they talk about the the lake flipping, I guess is what it is,
Yes.
you know. But it's a really good time of year to get yourself some big fish that you wouldn't normally have access to,
Mhm.
you know. So fishing, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that. Especially if the flows are right.
Yep.
And I actually went out fishing the other day, and which really surprised me. And there's a few spots in the state that you can fish year round, and so I hit one of those up. I wanted to cast out the fly rod,
Yep.
and it was exceptionally low already,
Yeah. Yep.
which that's kind of terrible. Starting out, and today we got some rain, which I'm hoping started some of the ice melt on the lakes and
Yep.
some of the snow melt and all of that. So there's still potential that it will, come up a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Last year was bad,
yeah, it sure was.
real bad. I
It,
remember on the moose hunts, all the wetlands were not wet.
right, they were
They were,
drylands.
yeah, it was just a bunch of dead grass.
Yeah, but um, to get into the hunting side of things, a lot of people, um, they forego getting out this time of year because they're afraid of a little bit of the mud.
Yeah.
Which, where there's mud, there's tracks.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm not saying go out and go track down a deer,
Well,
but
the kind of you are, you know what I mean? Because the
right.
amount of sign that's still up from the winter and the fall is it's pretty impressive, and it gives you a indication of what they were doing.
Yes. Yeah. And you can get out, you can see the old scrapes, you can see the old rubs.
Yeah,
Um,
and the
Obviously,
bedding.
yeah, the bedding.
Yeah,
It's an excellent time to get out and shed hunt.
yeah.
And where there's sheds, there's typically a game path or game trail.
Right, right, right.
So if you're on that, it's just, break out the map, break out Onyx,
Yeah,
note it down, and, potentially that's where you're going to be seeing some deer next year,
yep.
which that's the goal. You want to get out, you want to find these paths and not disturb them while that it's prime hunting.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's why this is the best time of year. Is if you jump deer, great. They're gonna be back. You have 6 months.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Yes, you do. You have quite a while before deer season,
Yep.
and now's the time to get out. If you spook them out of a little bit of a bedding area, you know where their bedding is.
Right.
If you see them on a trail, you know where their trail is.
Yep.
Just keep track of it, and focus on that for when you're coming up.
Yep.
And a key thing to take away from the spring trails and the winter trails, if you make it out in the winter, is that's typically where their most abundant food path is going to be,
Yeah.
because they're conserving as much energy as possible. So they're going to go food, food, bedding.
Right.
And
Right.
you're on a, if you see the trail, you're on a hot trail.
Yep. You touched on it real quickly, but the scrapes and the rubs, you know, hugely important. And you can tell last year's rubs,
Yes.
they still look like they just happened.
Right.
And if you know that you didn't harvest a deer out of there, or the likelihood that there are more deer there, you can see the tracks still.
Yes.
You know that they're going to be back there. It's just the way that it works.
Right. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like spring an awful lot. I didn't do it this year, but the sapping, usually we do a whole bunch of maple syrup.
Yeah. Yeah. I like spring for that. There's
Yep.
a lot of good things in spring that
Yep. Yep.
people forget about.
Yep. Peepers will be out soon.
Yeah. So to start wrapping it up and kind of change gears, I should actually say, before we wrap it up,
Yeah.
is a better term.
Yeah.
I'd like to pick your mind on the LD 2054, the 2054.
Yeah. 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 So I'm still kind of learning and researching about that a bit. But it seems like good stuff. I mean, for everyone that doesn't really know what it is, it's more or less a bill to revise the lodge tags to kind of reset them to what they were originally intended to be. There were a lot of people applying for lodge tags, which are moose permits given to hunting lodges in theory. But a lot of people were applying for these that don't necessarily have hunting lodges, that they just have a bed and breakfast in South Portland,
Right.
or a hotel in Lewiston or something like that, and then they were selling these tags for profit, with offering no guiding services and really no lodge in the zone that you're hunting.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
this LD kind of, well, not kind of, it definitely seeks to fix those loopholes.
Right. From what I've been seeing and reading up on it, it's still not perfected. And, again, there's no way to please everybody. And that's the hard thing. And I understand why lodges are a little upset. In theory, it's taking away from potential profit from a lodge. However, if you if you read into it and you look at it, you're getting rid of a huge portion of the people that were taking already from those lodges.
Mm-hmm.
They're no longer eligible to do that because you needed a DHS approved kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places can get a DHS approved kitchen. You didn't need to be in the
Yeah.
zone that you were guiding out of. So you could, like you said, you could have a hotel in Lewiston, get a lodge permit, and that's taking away from somebody in zone 1 that is truly a hunting lodge.
Right.
And they didn't get the permit because that hotel in Lewiston did. So it completely stripped that actual hunting lodge of their chance and their profit.
Right.
So I like that they're revising that.
Yeah. So the 2054 says that you either have to be in the zone or directly adjacent to the zone
Yes.
that the hunt is in.
And I think that's very beneficial. And I think how it's written and worded now, how they want to amend it, it's very beneficial for all business parties,
Mm-hmm.
not just the lodges.
Yeah, and it sets it back to what it was meant to be. It was originally meant as a something almost like a stimulus
Yes.
for
Yep.
the hunting lodges as the deer population declined.
Right.
And if those lodges that it was intended to benefit are not benefiting from it, then clearly it's a flawed system.
Yes. Yeah. And you want to see those lodges benefit.
So they can still contract out to guides, though.
Correct.
And where the vast majority of guides don't actually have a lodge, this benefits them as well, as opposed to just having the person sell the lodge tag to an individual that doesn't necessarily have a guide. They just spent $16,000, $20,000 on a tag. They can't afford to hire a guide. They're just gonna, wander up into the zone that they bought the tag for.
Right.
And maybe they'll have luck, maybe they won't.
Right.
Who knows?
And some hotel in a completely different county is making that money.
Yeah.
So overall, I hope that the amendment goes through, and I'm not saying that just for greed purposes, because it will benefit me, but
Well,
I think it will benefit the entirety of the outdoors, the outfitters, the guides, the sporting lodges, the hunting lodges.
mhm.
I think it will benefit everybody that is involved in that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel bad that the lodges, certain lodges, I don't want to say the lodges, there are certain lodges out there that feel like this is an attack on them.
It's not. It's not at all. It is setting it the way that it was meant to be. Because with this, and I'll call it like it is, it's abuse of the system. With the abuse of a system, the system will collapse. We will no longer have lodge tags. So in order to salvage it, we have this LD to set it the way that it was meant to be.
Yes.
So this is beneficial to all lodges.
Right.
This is beneficial to guides.
I think
this is beneficial to people, sports that are purchasing these tags, because they're not buying a $15,000-$16,000 tag and just being cut loose in the woods.
right, which is, it's a shame that that was happening to those people.
Yeah.
And when you get up into those the upper zones, it's a vast territory.
Yep, to say the least.
Yeah, of just being cut out and going on your own, especially if you're not from the state.
Right.
There's a lot of territory that you can really mess up in.
Yeah. Yeah, mess up big. Yeah. You can't just skip down to the local Walgreens and buy a Band-Aid.
No, you cannot.
Nope.
But so that wraps up this episode.
Yep.
Thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see you out hunting or fishing. And if we don't see you out there, we hope to see you back at the shack.